Good evening to you and welcome to News Sources on this Ladies' Night edition. Tonight we take a look at our political landscape in the run-up to next year's general election. I'm Sharon Omani. Welcome to the program.
If the chaos in Parliament yesterday is any indication of things to come, then we might have a bumpy ride ahead. I am Akisa Ondera, and before we begin, let's take a look at the highlights.
Some of us fought in this country for freedoms and democracy when Uhuru was busy enjoying himself out of the country as the son of the president and nyaf nyaf.
We are talking about the sovereignty of this country. Yeah. It is about the presidency, not even about the presidents. Hiyo kiti inafaa iheshimiwe.
Tuko na wenzetu. Na mimi nimesema sana ya kwamba wenzetu hawana agenda ya kujenga Kenya isipokuwa matusi. Simuliona jana na matusi.
Welcome to the program. Now, a group of Jubilee women activists this morning held demonstrations on the streets of Nairobi to protest yesterday's utterances by Mbita MP Millie Odhiambo during a chaotic parliamentary session called to debate amendments to the electoral laws. The activists are among a host of other Kenyans who want Millie Odhiambo to apologize for insulting the president. Now, was she out of order in her utterances?
Hawezi ongea kitu kama hiyo kwa media na watoto wetu wanaona. Alafu tunaenda kuambia watoto wetu kutusi ni vibaya. Hiyo nakashifu kama mama na pia kama wamama wote wa Nairobi. Na hata si president peke yake, president wetu is also amedefile sovereignty ya Kenya yetu. We are talking about the sovereignty of this country. It is about the presidency, not even about the presidents. Hiyo kiti inafaa iheshimiwe.
Right, and indeed this has been a very hotly contested issue. And just before we delve into it, let me introduce our panel for tonight. We have my co-host for tonight actually is Akisa Ondera. She has already introduced herself. Yes. Julie Masiga today changes hats and is our guest tonight. Of course, a journalist here at Standard Group, and our regular guest, political researcher Betty Wederero. Thank you, ladies, for being here tonight. Let's just delve straight into this one. And of course, it's a hot issue since it started yesterday. Was Millie out of order in her utterances? I'll begin with you, Betty.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Let me be honest. I think that there's a limit to which you can express yourself and be found to be, objectively criticizing an issue. Clearly, her remarks were of very personal nature, and I don't think they were fair at all. I think that, yes, it would be in her, a show of good faith and a show of, humility at least, to apologize for what she said. But going beyond that, I think that we have to be careful about how we censor our parliamentarians. How we want them to be able to express themselves, but also to remember that this is the question at hand is not of such a personalized nature that you're talking about what somebody was doing, his fatherhood and things like that. That's really unfair, and it's really uncalled for. I think so.
All right, Julie.
Well, I think I need to disagree, Betty. I think she started off by saying, I'm going to say all the bad things I've heard in my heart about Uhuru Kenyatta. So she said it was a personal attack from the get-go. She was within the precincts of Parliament, so she knew she could say whatever it is she wanted to say. So
and she actually said that it's constitutional to have a right to, freedom of expression.
So she might have been a bit robust and a bit perhaps uncouth in the words she chose to describe the president. But I think that if you're the president, you should expect people to say things like that about you. It comes with territory.
But then there's people and there's honorable leaders, right?
I guess, and the women were saying it's the sovereignty of the office of the presidency, but even the president himself kind of dismissed the insults and threw a few insults of his own. So this is the country we're living in, where this is our politics, I think.
Even as we are looking at Millie Odhiambo's utterances, what kind of reaction have we got on the protest today from the women and the things they were saying and what was written on the placards they were carrying? You don't fight wrong with wrong. As much as I might not agree with what Millie said, but I don't think that would be how you would want to correct someone, especially for someone who's trying to get into politics.
It's true, but then again, I say this is the way we behave in politics. You throw an insult, I throw another one, we accept, we move on
It's
until
a guarantee for re-election.
yeah, perhaps it's showing your people that you were...
You know, you have the guts to take on the most powerful man in the country. Having said that, you know, it's very funny that because Millie said that and because she's a woman, she's having women activists come out and, you know, speak right back at her, which is fantastic. It's a democratic process.
Right.
But the interesting part is the noise you're making over Millie saying these few things compared to what some Jubilee activists have said concerning circumcision, and some, you know, politicians have said concerning even the person of Ann Waiguru, which is something that I felt was even worse than what Millie Odhiambo had said.
So why do you think on this particular case? Is it because she hit at the, you know, highest power on the land?
No, I think it's because she's a woman. I think it's because she's a woman and she said those things. And in as much as I'm with Askia, I just don't agree that's the way you should, that's how far you should go and how personal you should go. I think that you're making a lot of noise because a woman said these things, but if Johnston Muthama said that, everybody will be like,
how dare
like,
she?
this is how he talks anyway.
This one.
But why didn't we get the same reaction when Miguna was roasting Esther Passaris? Do women in this country have double standards when it comes to what they think is right and what they think is wrong?
And even what they say, did you hear what, like you said, what these women were saying?
They threatened to strip. Really... That's the one thing I know people had waited to say.
Yeah, you know, for me, I find it, I agree with the, you know, because they are political activists themselves. So of course they'll rush to defend their presidential candidate. We look at it that way. But in the terms of, do women activists themselves stand up and speak up when other women politicians are insulted? We have seen the sort of reaction that our activists have had after Passaris was insulted, and it was very strong, especially from FIDA. We've seen the sort of reactions that the activists have had today after the utterances by Moses Kuria on social media. So we are trying to stand up for female politicians, but what I think that we cannot expect our politicians, because of their gender, to behave better than the other ones. You know?
And of course, we excuse a lot of these political utterances for what they are, saying that this is how politics is anyway. But then does it not speak of the kind of integrity system? I mean, if we excuse this kind of thing, is this how we speak at home? Is it how you disagree with, you know, your peers?
And I think it's funny that they say she's a woman and our children are listening, and the whole thing about motherhood and being, as a woman, you're supposed to have like a higher morality, so to speak, and they're attacking her on that basis alone. But it's worse that they're showing their children.
Is there a different human compass for women?
Like there's a different way that's supposed to be had.
You know, and it's for me, I find it very ridiculous. When a person gets into the political arena as an aspirant, as a candidate, as a representative, they're politicians. The gender card does not, and we have been told that to our faces. Stop playing the gender card. So then why is it that when she says something, you throw the gender card at her?
I think also she scares people. She's strong and she's loud and she's not backing down, so she scares people, especially men, because they don't expect this from a woman.
No, but
for fact, I know men don't like loud women. So
she's like the angry black woman stereotype. So they're kind of like, what are we dealing with here? You know,
so trying to box the, you know, outspoken women back into the
just
expected little box.
And for me, what I find interesting about this entire event is what it, you know, what it shows for other female aspirants. Should they always be censoring themselves? Should they always, you know, be careful? Don't insult your opponent, because even though he is insulting you. And yet, you know, this is a political arena.
All right, guys, we're out of time for that. Let's take a look at still some of the things that happened at the National Assembly yesterday after the dramatic scenes in the National Assembly as the government side attempted to debate amendments to the election laws. And with reference to statements made by Mbita Member of Parliament Millie Odhiambo, Kenyans on social media took to various platforms in support of their leaders. Many of the comments were tribal and insulting in nature. And as we head into the 2017 general election, it would appear that the country is typically divided, with the people being edged on by their leaders.
Okay, what I want to tell you, today I said I have dedicated this day to tell Uhuru every negative thing I want to tell him. Because some of us fought in this country for freedoms and democracy when Uhuru was busy enjoying himself out of the country as the son of the president and nyaf nyaf.
To my left is the National Assembly, representing our democracy, and the ability of some idiots in there to continue insulting me, but that's their freedom. Tuko na wenzetu, na mimi nimesema sana ya kwamba wenzetu hawana agenda ya kujenga Kenya isipokuwa matusi. Si mliona jana na matusi yao? Sisi tuwasema haja yetu ni amani katika taifa letu la Kenya. Haja yetu ni umoja wa Wakenya. Sisi hatuna haja ya kujuliana na watu ambao hawana agenda ya taifa la Kenya.
All right, we have gotten both sides from Millie and the president, and all of us are on the social media. We've seen the kind of conversations that have been there online with regards to what Millie said. But when do we cross the line?
Okay, let me say this, yeah, and I had this conversation with Julie much earlier today. We're talking about how people view their representatives as personalized extensions of themselves and their communities.
Right.
And so when Millie Odhiambo says ABCD, and these are all the negative things that she has to say about the president, and then the president himself in turn says all the things that, you know, his response, people think because they feel represented by these people down to the down to the personalities. So now you go online and you're busy fighting each other on a personal level. I want to say this: you're not politicians. Yeah, you are not politicians. You do not have the protection.
They say the fish rots from the head.
Yes, but you see, let me tell you something. You may see these people as representatives of you, but you are not that person. You do not enjoy their powers, their position, or
their protections.
Yeah, their protections.
Yeah.
So when you go on social media and you're busy insulting random people who, of course, you might or might not know them, and you get tribal over it, you will face the law. And that's just a reality. You will face the law. It depends on how far you want to take it, but you will face the law. And to me, I don't think that it's... I'm not saying that people shouldn't, they shouldn't express their different views, but I think that whole taking that's, the same sort of attitude and insulting people that you don't know on tribal basis because your political leader did that in parliament.
But you see, like Sharon says, the fish rots from the head, and it's politics of first identity. Because Millie comes out with those insults as an opposition MP, and then Uhuru responds in a similar fashion, calls her name as well. These are two leaders on both sides of the divide. So what do you expect the followers to do? It's a real case of leader-follower. If this is what we're seeing on a national stage yesterday, chaotic scenes in parliament. How are we expected to react and respond? Are we supposed to be the bigger people in this scenario? Are we looking for leadership?
And I think it's really a problem because as it stands, a lot of Kenyans are really disillusioned by a lot of things, corruption, whatnot. Many people are really struggling with the economy as it is. And so even as we get towards the next year's election, I think the politicians are obviously using this disillusionment to their favor. So then hate speech becomes a way of aligning these people to your side, which is really dangerous because then you're creating really extreme passions, and we've seen how this has gone down.
But I think Betty has a point when she talks about us not having the kind of privileges these leaders have. Look at, there's this guy called Alan Wadi, I think, who insulted the president and ended up in jail. But a similar person like Moses Kuria or Millie Odhiambo could say the very same words, but they're free to walk around. I mean, after all, I'm a representative for thousands of people down at the constituency level or at the county level. But I think we need to check ourselves. Given how emotive matters elections are in this country, we seriously need to check ourselves.
But the checking, where does the checking begin?
And this is
becomes the question.
This is where the power of your vote comes in. If this person making these utterances is not a representative of the way that we had that argument just now, how you'd speak at home in front of your children, you'd not do that, then you shouldn't go online and do it yourself. Yeah. And through the power of your vote, you can deliver a message very clearly. Listen, when you go to parliament, you're supposed to be doing this, this, and this. Yeah, this thing of you're talking tribal nonsense, pitting me against my neighbor in a country of so many people. We are not down for that, and we reject that. You can actually make it clear, and we did that. We saw something happen. It didn't last for long, but it happened this year when we had 6 parliamentarians locked up for hate speech. It happened. It didn't have the effect that we had hoped it would have, and the problem was in the charges and the way it was. But if we had more dedicated NCIC, if we had more dedicated DPPs,
what really worries
people
me,
up.
Julie, is that is it a biblical statement that out of the fullness of the heart,
the mouth speaks?
Because this comes from somewhere. It comes from a deep-seated place of anger or whatnot. And my worry, and I think it should be a worry for all of us, is what this would then mean. I mean, we're just at the start of this electioneering process.
I don't think you can accuse any politician of having fullness of heart.
Is it really an accusation?
or claim or make any kind of claim. I think the people of Kenya, yes. I think we're being led down the garden path because that's why I fault Millie, not for her insults, but the way she said them and where she said them in full view of the entire country and obviously sparking off a war between communities. And we know very well we're going to the next general election. We don't need that kind of rhetoric. So
but it's not only coming from members of parliament like Millie Odhiambo. We saw the president splash out at the opposition leader. There's words like Muganga, Mchawi. When it comes from the topmost office, come on guys, do we expect anything better from members of parliament?
If we're electing leaders, we should hold them accountable. So next year when you're voting, you should just be prepared every step of the way to check them and say, this is not what I elected you for.
And from another aspect of this whole discussion, from our traditional values, is one would ask, is there an expected, way of conduct for Millie as a woman? Is that a question that should be, or is it an unfair question?
It should be. I think she's just an anomaly in that she's female and she's powerful and she's strong and she's voicing her opinion. It shouldn't be a difference, but people automatically get scared because that's not how a woman should be.
But the tradition is that women are supposed to be silent, and silenced. So the fact that Millie can come out and say all these things, I applaud her for her bravery and her her passion. Like I said, I don't agree with her statements, but how it affects a normal person who's using social media. Again, use your mind. You cannot say because Millie Odhiambo, because she said that I can say
like
this
she's
to
giving you direction on
you're also a person with your conscience.
All right. Let's move on now to a different subject now. And the U.S. government has told off the Jubilee government over their banning of civic education and the partners implementing it. Jubilee froze 2 billion shillings meant for civic education, claiming the monies were meant to destabilize the government using NGOs led by USAID and its partners. Ambassador Michael Godek, in a strongly worded statement, told off the government, saying the voice of the Kenyan people must be respected in the upcoming polls. President Uhuru Kenyatta was the first to sound off what clearly seemed like a narrative leading to the banning of IFES, an international organization consulted on several other elections by the Kenyan government.
For an organization called International Foundation for Electoral System. This same Michael Yard was in this country in 2013 general elections. This same Michael Yard was involved in the issue of the many errors that happened in 2013 general election. This Michael Yard is not a staff of IEBC. So we are challenging IEBC, what is the role of Michael Yard, who he works for, what does he do, and we were asking IEBC that we don't want to see Michael Yard anywhere close and around IEBC and its function and its preparedness for 2017 general election.
Right, so some are arguing that what we are seeing with this whole developing story is a shrinking of the democratic and civic space. I don't know what your opinion of the same is.
I think definitely a shrinking, but it's curious that he's mentioning one man, and it makes me wonder exactly who is this Michael Yard and why don't they like him? What has he done? Because they invited IFES into the country to help them with civic education. They've been here since ECK days. They've been working calmly with other administrations. What has changed with this one that makes it now impossible for them to go on doing what they have been doing? And civic education is civic education. You're not telling people who to vote for. You're telling people the mechanics of voting and how to consider issues before you vote and how to fill out a ballot. So it's interesting that the issue has come up now. There's probably much more to it that they know that they're not telling us.
I think that, and we can tie this to the comments that Uhuru Kenyatta made about how foreign governments have influenced and attempting to influence elections in Kenya, just like it happened in the US. That is a fact that it did happen. In terms of
what did happen,
the Russian government is accused of, interfering or at some level messing with the election in the U.S. So it's and let's not pretend this doesn't happen. We have foreign governments messing around with elections all across Africa.
It's a geopolitical issue that happens everywhere.
It happens, but. If IEBC, if the Kenya government has been working with IFES all this time, I am with Julie. I want to know who's this particular person who's changing the...
And what evidence do they have that they're actually interfering with?
And it could also, and I always look at the political angle. Duale might be trying to use this to bash IEBC as well, which is obviously one of the key issues going on this week and part of the drama that happened in Parliament yesterday. So there's also a political angle to it. The fact that a foreign government could try and influence the election it's possible, but I can't say for sure because I have no evidence.
And like most of the time when this happens, when you're trying to, protect or gain some interest from doing that, it's hardly ever in a direct way as to tell people, twist people into voting in a particular person. So I don't know where the onus then is on proving these allegations that the government has.
But we are known for diversionary tactics as a country. And just like Betty asks, why now? This IFES has been in the country since 2002, almost 14 years. Why now? What has changed between 2002? They helped with 2000. Of course, the administration. But I get a feeling that a number of people in the political divide are feeling threatened. But then we need to question why.
Right.
Why
now?
Why now? Why is this feeling of being threatened? Even as we have this conversation on whether we are going to use technology in the 2017 polls.
Right.
So there's a lot of questions surrounding this. There's a lot of politics and interest surrounding this particular issue.
Right.
And I think there's more that meets the eye in this particular issue.
Absolutely.
And I think we should go to the next story from here. Well, the IEBC Secretariat has said that it is still receiving policy direction from its commissioners who resigned in October. In fact, IEBC CEO Ezra Chiloba said the commission was set to sit to decide the fate of aspirants who had not complied with the Election Campaign Finance Act, whose deadline was 8th of December. One of those aspirants, opposition Chief Raila Odinga, whose lawyers have gone to court seeking to challenge the implementation of the law that requires candidates in the 2017 elections to submit a list of their campaign finance management committees. All right, so this is another conversation that has taken center stage for a while now. Campaign monies, the financial campaign law that's in place. What do you think, Betty?
I think, okay, first of all, this law was enacted in 2013. So anyone talking about, trying to challenge it should have challenged it in the last 3 years, yeah? I think, and this is a political angle, really, ODM CORD, you are not ready for this election. Just admit it, it's okay, yeah? You're just not ready for it. And these are some of the... again, remember I said, if I was the one, I would waste everyone's time in court for like 3-4 months parts, and this is part of it. You keep challenging things that have already been established. For instance, if Jubilee has already done their part and submitted all the requirements, why haven't you guys done it? Wiper admits that their own aspirants filled out the forms in a panic, and I'm like, panicking? Why? You know this. Why are you panicking? Yeah. So I think that, to be honest, they're just not ready for this election, and it's okay. But they just need to admit it and maybe ask for more time. I don't know if that will help, but they need to
have the election when 2020.
When they feel like that they're ready to finally do it.
Yeah.
I think the bigger question here is these commissioners resigned in October. Are still in office. They were even asked they had some plenary commission session, why are you still receiving policy direction from people who have resigned? We had the whole IEBC must go Monday.
Right.
What were we calling it? Crazy Monday.
Protest Monday.
Yes. Yeah, protest, tear gas Monday, and all this hula baloo about getting these people to exit office, and they're still giving policy direction in December. Another irony is that Raila Odinga has gone to court over this particular law, and meanwhile, Millie Odhiambo and his cohorts are trying to stop them amending another law. Yeah. So all these laws seem to have snuck up on everybody. I'm not so sure if court is ready or not ready for the election, but people don't seem to be knowing how elections work.
You see, this is why we're asking, why are you stopping IFES from doing its job? Because clearly, these people need their civic
education. Precisely.
Yeah. All right, but it feels, I don't know, from the layman's side, it seems like we're just doing a lot of bills and acts and what after each other, especially with regard to this election laws. I don't know. Could be a bit confusing.
It's very technical. I did ask Rosie
Hence why you need civic education, guys.
It is because there's one bill, then next time it's an amendment, then next time it's an act. So the normal person on the street must be like, what is happening?
Yeah. Right. Can we just vote already?
Exactly. So right back to, we need people to actually educate us on the processes and tell us what's happening at every step of the way. And some of these people will be international.
Right.
We cannot run away from that.
Okay, there's a challenge of IEBC having to do, they need to do their part. And there's always been that complaint from the political parties that they're not getting the sort of directions from them, which IEBC has tried to fix.
All right, Betty, we have to move on. And before we go to the next story, I'd just like to read out our Twitter poll question tonight, and we're asking our audience, was Millie Odhiambo out of order in her utterances against the president? Was Millie Odhiambo, who is the MP for Mbita, out of order in her utterances against the president? Please tweet us at KTN News, at Sharon_Momanyi, at Akisa Wandera, #news sources, and we shall be sampling your views in the tail end of this show. Right, let's move on now. And the country now has a new EACC chair, and that's none other than Archbishop Eliud Wabukala Wabukeke. The retired Archbishop will now oversee the institution that has one of the lowest trust levels and will be charged with hopefully ridding the country of corruption. Wabukala's appointment is a departure from the past. He is the first religious leader to hold an important position in government. Let's take a look.
Is that in excess of powers vested in him under Section 3 and 5 of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Act of 2011, he has nominated Archbishop retired Eliud Wabukala Wamukeke for appointment as the chairperson of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission.
Right, ladies, do you think the appointment of the man of God would sanctify the situation of corruption in the country? You know, there could be a hand of God in all this.
Divine intervention, it's possible. But remember when the Pope came to Kenya and Uhuru asked him to pray for the country, those prayers seem to have yielded a man of God for this position. But I think this is just an exercise in absolute futility. I really don't see how a man of God in any shape or form can compete with the kind of mess we have in political circles, in government circles, can try and unravel all these deeply intricate political maneuvers that happen at that level. I just
really,
don't think
Julie, that's just assuming that this man of God is only bringing his, you know,
He's got God on his side.
Godliness, but there's also skills that, you know, that come with being a leader, even as a religious leader.
Perhaps they should tell us what are the skills he has to fight corruption, because nobody else seems to have them in this country.
Okay, let's not just put him down as a man of God, because, and as you said, Sharon, this country needs divine intervention in terms of dealing with corruption. The question was, do you think that he can rid the country of corruption? No. God cannot do it, but...
God cannot do it?
Oh, God, are we...
I'm serious. I think this one, no.
Pessimist we are tonight.
No. But I do have hope that perhaps his leadership, as you pointed out, perhaps his leadership, because he does have a background in this. Perhaps his leadership, perhaps he's the kind of forthright person who can make a difference in EACC and at least, present reports to the public and tell us how far you're getting with this. The previous leader was embroiled in some of the sagas, and it was just, it was completely disheartening. So maybe this one is clean.
But let's take a look at the history of EACC, the kind of chair bosses we've had there. Kinisu was the shortest to serve, the shortest period to serve for about, 3 or 4 months before he was hounded out. We saw PLO Lumumba, who...
About a year.
Everyone thought, wow, now finally this is going to work. But if all the commissioners stay put, all the officers stay put, and all we do is change the head
right.
when the rot is everywhere in that particular commission, are we doing anything?
But we've not, okay, I'm seeing as if we've really changed the trail in the kind of appointment method, because all these other people had some political, and I could be wrong, some political background to them. This is a man that purely has been leading,
I think that's what disqualifies him outright. I think you need to have some political acumen for this position. And if you look at his CV for the past decade or perhaps more, he's been in the church. That's what he's been doing, leading the flock, not leading wolves.
I beg to differ with you, because
leadership.
Church is where politics is born.
There is politics in church,
this is
actually.
a
There's
global
elections,
history.
there's whatnot, there's
the
groups
mother of politics.
It is
organizations.
The church has always influenced the political mindset, and we saw this in the referendum in 2005, where the church was leading the banana vote. Was it the banana side? I think. And we also saw it again in 2010 in the referendum for the Constitution, where you saw church leaders strongly coming out to vote against the Constitution based on, the abortion clause. So the church is very political. I'd say that him surviving this long would make him quite adept at dealing with different political mindsets. However, Askia has brought up a very critical point. If the institution remains the same, the integrity of the institution remains hollow, then there's no point in putting even the best man of God right
Maybe
there.
the question then is, even as we come to the end of this, is what do you think? What would it take for what does it take for a person to lead this institution? Maybe he brings sobriety. He cannot be swayed, to whoever.
I think it actually does take divine intervention. I really just don't know if it's going to come this time around.
All right.
But it's a matter of wait and see. We'll just see how retired Archbishop Eliud Wabukala will perform in that particular office. That seems to have a lot of skeletons and a lot of issues going on in that office.
Evil
but
spirits.
let's wait and see. And evil spirits and everything. But as you say, he's a man of the cloth, so probably.
Could be the white smoke.
It could be the white smoke, yes. All right, guys, we can take a short break now. But before we go on that break, let's just remind you of our Twitter poll question at this hour as we engage with you on the social media. Was Millie Odhiambo in order in her utterances against the president? Was Millie Odhiambo out of order in her utterances against the president? Do tweet us at KTN News, at Sharon Momanyi, at Sharon_Momanyi, at Akisa Wandera. Hashtag is news sources. We'd love to hear from you. And of course, we'll be taking a look at some of your views at the end of this bulletin. Let's take a short break now. Don't go too far.
This is KTN News.